All right, guys, let's start by exploding some myths, shall we? It's a brand new week. We'll begin with destruction. This is Howard Real. The show is called Real Truth. You know, there's a myth that says if you don't overreact, if you leave things alone, they'll just get better. All right, well, you can believe that if you want. I don't. In fact, I never have. Here are 3 different items that show that old bromide is nonsense. Item from GreenwichTime.com. White House and congressional negotiators rushing to hammer out the final details of a sweeping budget and debt deal are unlikely to include many, if any, actual spending cuts, even as the debt limit is lifted for 2 years. People familiar with the talk said the agreement appeared likely to mark a retreat for White House officials who demanded major spending cuts in exchange for a new budget deal. So, folks, we are so wildly over budget in this country, it's not even pathetic anymore. $22 trillion and counting. And if you just leave things alone, they'll get better, right? Wrong. The people in D.C. still don't have the moxie or the courage to cut spending. And until they do, we're just going to get further and further and further into debt. Probably we already are past the breaking point. Exhibit number 2, item from Fox5NewYork.com. According to a new report from the U.S. Border Patrol, over 1,100 people from 19 different African countries have been arrested illegally crossing the border into the United States since May 30th. The apprehension of people from African countries illegally crossing our borders continues to increase, said Del Rio Sector Chief Patrol Agent Raul Ortiz, unquote. We don't need a wall. We don't need ice. Everything's just fine on the southern border. After all, the Democrats also said there's no crisis, right? Wrong. There is a horrifying crisis down there, and I don't mean just the humanitarian crisis, because truth be told, I don't consider that to be our crisis. If people come here and break our laws, I don't see that it's up to us to make them comfortable and supply all their needs. The crisis is that people are coming from all over the world, don't know who they are, don't know what they want, don't know what they're bringing in their bloodstreams or in their backpacks. They're coming here and they're getting in. Exhibit number 3 from the New York Post. An anti-Semitic vandal scrawled the words, "Slaughter the Jews," on a section of the sacred Western Wall in Jerusalem over the weekend, according to local reports. The chilling phrase was spray-painted in Arabic on the Kotel Hakatan, or Little Western Wall, on Saturday in the Muslim quarter of the old city of Jerusalem, according to the Jewish Telegraphic Agency. Unquote. My friends, for decades, Israel has gone along and said, look, let's not make a fuss. Let's not stir up the Arabs. In time, things will get better. They'll simmer down, and we'll all live happily ever after. Well, if you followed the news at any time in the last 70 or so years, you know that that's not happened. It's not going to happen. The Arabs will continue for eternity to commit outrages not only against Jews, but against Christians and other people as well. Anyone who's not Muslim. By the way, they have a little savagery saved in case they need to use it against other Muslims as well. 3 cases where the common advice is to do nothing, let it simmer down, let it resolve itself, and things don't resolve themselves in this world, my friends. Speaking of which, an item from the Daily Beast. Former Vice President Joe Biden has used Barack Obama's beloved status among Democrat voters to insulate him from criticism from the massive field of candidates jockeying to be the next president. But in recent weeks, the Democratic frontrunner has had that legacy used against him, with his competitors pointing to the shortcomings of the last Democratic administration as evidence that Biden is not up to the task of leading the next one. Unquote. Talk about eating your own. Barack Obama was an icon, and his presidency was looked on by Democrats as a high watermark. Of course, to people with at least average intelligence, his presidency was a disgrace that crippled this nation in a variety of ways. So for Joe Biden to hitch his horse to that wagon, to the Obama administration's wagon, was laughable at best, and I enjoy laughing just like everybody else does. But now the Democrats have turned on their own. Now they're speaking I never thought I'd live to see the day. A little bit of truth about how lousy the Obama administration was and what a do-nothing Joe Biden has been for over 4 decades in Washington, D.C. If it is the Democrats who sink Joe Biden, I'm just as happy. Just as happy as if anybody had done it. Item from Newsweek: a Nashville radio host revealed this weekend that his employer, Cumulus Media, blocked him from airing a recorded interview with 2020 candidate South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Blair Garner, who hosts a nationally syndicated radio program titled The Blair Garner Show, interviewed Buttigieg for roughly 20 minutes on Wednesday during the 2020 candidate's Nashville, Tennessee campaign stop, but now the interview will not be aired. Unquote. Excuse me. The clear implication when I read this was that in Nashville, Tennessee, they're all right-wingers, they're all Trump supporters, and they wouldn't deign to put a gay man on the radio in Tennessee. Well, folks, I don't think that's it at all. At least I hope it's not. There are plenty of good reasons not to put Mr. Buttigieg on the radio, one of which is he's a fool. His perspective on life is skewed. His policies are awful. He's done a less than standard job as mayor of Bend South, Indiana. There are a lot of good reasons to simply laugh off his candidacy at all. And the fact that he's gay should not enter into it. Now, we are just beginning a week. Going to be lots of twists and turns. I promise, lots of stuff you need to know. I've got 3 exciting videos you're going to want to hear. I will, as always, feel free to comment on all of them since it's, after all, my show. But there is a Turning Point USA event starting today in Washington, D.C. I want you to hit YouTube when the show is over and catch up on what's going on there. It is important to you and to your children. It's Monday, and it's Real Truth. We'll be right back.
Before hiring a realtor from a big corporation who outsources their jobs and pays little to no taxes, ask yourself, what do you want in a realtor? You need a realtor that's honest and has integrity. A realtor who's focused on the client's bottom line, not the realtor's bottom line. It provides personal, over-the-top service before, during, and after the transaction. You want a realtor that knows how to market your property. Hi, I'm James Morgan, a realtor with Grisham & Associates, LLC. I am your Colorado real estate specialist. Land deals, mountain cabins, or urban dwellings, I've got you covered. For the first-time home buyer, we will make it the best experience. If you are looking to move up or downsizing, we will do better than your last transaction. Call me today at 720-203-0731 or visit coloradoproperties.online. Let me do a great job for you. Just about anywhere for all kinds of different deals. So why do you make sure it's ready for 20 years? Just like that. 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 Fine. Just like that. All your goals are so great. All the hate. Ready? 951 059. Just like that. Swear it is.
All right, welcome back to Real Truth. Howard Real behind the microphone. As always, as a heat wave was crossing this country, my friends, stay cool and stay hydrated. Now, we talk about doing nothing. Nothing exemplifies doing nothing more than the federal government. The federal government can't seem to get out of its own way. I've said that before. The same goes, however, on a lesser degree for state governments and city governments. Most of them are boondoggles waiting to happen. It raises the question, why can't America fill a pothole anymore? During World War II, American engineers in the military did amazing things on short notice. All through America's expansion, we were imbued with a can-do attitude that was realized in the streets across this great nation. Today, we can't fill a pothole. The folks at Prager University have an answer, possible answer. Here's Kyle Smith of speaking from Prager University. And folks, that should tell you everything you need to know about why we need leaner, meaner, more efficient government. Under the Democrats, government only gets bigger, only gets more bloated, more inefficient, which is why we simply cannot afford to turn our federal or state, city governments over to Democrats. They simply don't get the job done. They cannot get the job done. Exhibit B. Here is Brent Bozell talking about something else that won't change on its own. We have to make a change. He's talking about the media. Now, Brent Bozell was speaking recently, about a year ago, okay, at the Media Research Center, and he was talking about, well, how the media may be committing suicide. And I think he's on to something. Here we go.
Just 2 days ago, our next speaker, Brett Bozell, published a blog exposing the left against bias, perspective on Donald Trump and his address. Trump is playing the press like an accordion. They are the campaign issue. They are the ones politicizing prejudice against the candidate they despise. Mr. Bozell is the founder and president of the Media Research Center, America's largest watchdog organization. He is also the president of CNS News and
Well, hold on to that question, Brent. There are a lot of powerful weapons that the media controls. One is that they'll put news out and then they'll slant it and they'll color it and shade it and they'll just outright lie about what's happened. But just as powerful as that is the power not to report what's happening. If the media won't talk about it, you probably won't hear about it. And so Brent Bozell is right. You go online. I told you to do this last week, my friends. I hope you listened to me. You go to Google and you punch in Trump accomplishments. Do it. See what you get. You will get multiple websites with hundreds of accomplishments that this president has had, and he's only slightly over halfway through his first term. The media won't report it, so as far as most Americans are concerned, it never happened.
Why do they hate this man so much? I want to put forward my theory. If you look at the Donald Trump said in running that he was going to unvote American people. Barack Obama is the hero of the place. For over a record, he said he had the fundamental reputation of America. And if you want to hit that same mark, that would have been the last man who held for America. If she had been around another 2 years, and God forbid, who knows, that could have been the end of America as we know it. Because exactly what the national news media wanted. And it all came down to
Now, folks, we're going to hit a commercial break. You know what? I'll come back to this on the other side of it because what Bozell is saying is that important. Why do they hate Donald Trump more than any other reason? Because Trump is winning, because Trump is accomplishing, because he's doing what he promised. He's successful. He's smashingly powerful in the White House. And as far as they're concerned, that's unforgivable. We'll take a break. We'll come back with Brent Bozell. More Real Truth ahead.
Grandpa's Pawn and Gun, serving Longmont and the Front Range of Colorado since 1994. We specialize in guns and currently have over 400 guns for sale. We also buy, sell, pawn, and trade for gold, silver, musical instruments, knives, archery equipment, cloths, side-by-side, coins, and a lot more. We buy gun collections and do appraisals, which is smart for insurance purposes should a claim arise. We are, according to ATF, Colorado's second highest volume gun dealer, and because we have a lot lower overhead than the big box stores, we can beat the big box stores by as much as $100 per gun. And we have the lowest interest rates in northern Colorado, half of what the corporate stores charge when you're getting loan. Come and see us at Grandpa's Pawn and Gun. If you love guns, if you love gold, come and see us. Check us out on the web, www.grandpaspawn.com. or 303-772-7952. Graham, Bigfoot, and Rufford Politician. Yeah,
All right, guys, welcome back to Real Truth. We're going to throw it back to Brent Bozell, speaking at this year's Western Conservative Summit in Denver, Colorado. How about that? Talking about why the media has such a raging hatred of Donald Trump. He's making some good points. Let's listen.
And said, no, I'm going to listen if I'm elected president. And he one promise after another that just awful. But the one that I really, really liked, he told me that Donald Trump is the first president or presidential nominee ever, underscore, ever, to promise a pro-life Supreme Court justice.
America, take a victory lap for that. The fact that we have weaned ourselves off of a source of intellectual pollution, which CNN is. The fact that we've recognized that they spew lies and, on a good day, half-truths and spin and propaganda, and we've said no thank you. That is a shining moment for the American people. And that is a blast of truth from Brent Bozell. He's a guy who knows what's going on in the media. The media in this country sucks, by and large. And the poster boy for a lousy media is CNN. So if you're still watching it, stop watching it. Item from studyfinds.org. According to a survey of 2,000 British adults commissioned by UK charity consortium Remember a Charity, 4 out of 10 people regret how they've lived their lives so far. Spending too much time at work and not traveling enough were among respondents' biggest regrets. Unquote. Folks, I have to take issue with this. First of all, right off the bat, I've got to believe that it's more than just 4 out of 10 people who have regrets about their lives. It's probably 9 out of 10. Secondly, not traveling enough and spending too much time at work. You have to craft your career to your liking, make room for your family, for leisure time. Traveling, you know what? Speaking personally, I've never been a fan of traveling. First of all, it's a major pain in the butt these days. Secondly, if I want to travel to another country to see a river, I've got a river where I am. If I want to travel there to see mountains, I've seen mountains. If I want to go there and experience cuisine, well, you can get any kind of cuisine you want these days, almost anywhere you are. So I'm not a big fan of travel. But if you are living your life and you regret decisions you've made, okay, analyze why you made them, where they went wrong, if indeed they did, and chart a new course. Take action. Do not spend your time wallowing in self-pity or regret. Take action. Change things. Make them better going forward. The old bromide, today is the first day of the rest of your life, it happens to be true. There are some things we can't change, but there are a lot of things, maybe even most things, that we can. So be proactive. Take charge of your life. Make yourself better and make the people around you better for that change. Change doesn't have to be bad. Change can be very constructive. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back, and then we will construct some more real truth.
Call me at 970-460-8873 or book a trip at trucking.com. Join us to discuss the moment of reality on your number one source for independent media. Find out what the mainstream media is about. InfoWars, Pro America, Pro Family, Pro Freedom. We are legally better than each other. Exclusive reports, live coverage, information you won't find anywhere else. Tomorrow's news today. Stay informed by listening to KHNP 1360. Reality of KHNP, the heart of Boulder, Colorado. The Woodbridge Trading Group is a different kind of company, looking up the industry for 21 years. Are you tired of the high pressure sales tactics, the constant phone calls? Are you done with the bait? You just want to be treated fairly without that's exactly what you did when you called 800-951-0592. You have my word on it. I'm Joe Gickle, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group. Check us out online at allamericangolds.com. Mr. Brian again.
All right, folks, welcome back. Howard, real, real truth. Look, the one thing that we can all agree on, left side of the aisle, right side, one thing we can all agree on is that we want less crime. Right? Wrong. The Democrats want more crime. They won't admit it. They won't speak the truth. But look at their policies. Look what they say. Look what they do. Look what they want to do. And it's clear that they have no regard for the law. They want America to be filled with much more crime than we already have. Here's Laura Ingraham talking about liberals and lawlessness. Yeah, California is a laughing stock from sea to shining sea. They are in desperate straits on a variety of fronts. They are stone cold broke. They will never get out of debt. They've got rampant poverty, homelessness, disease. I don't know what Mr. Newsom has been smoking. Whatever it is, it looks like it works pretty well. But if he opened his eyes and looked around his state, he would understand why he is a laughing stock. And so is California these days. Stop. Laura Ingraham and I are of a single mind. I've been saying on this show for years that the worst villains are not the corrupt, brainless politicians, but the clueless voters who vote for them. California's problems don't come from Democrat politicians, although, of course, they do. They stem from voters. People voting foolishly, stupidly, ignorantly, selfishly. How else can you explain it? Decade after decade, life in California gets worse and worse and worse because Democrat politicians are poison, and California keeps on re-electing them. So at the end of the day, how do you have any real sympathy for the people of California who are such blockheads that are basically shooting themselves in the foot year after year after year?
My friends, it's all a Democrat.
This is Pete Buttigieg. Every hand goes up, my friends. This was such a debacle, such a disgrace, that CNN realized it, and they said, from now on, we're not asking any more raise your hand questions, because America saw exactly that each and every person on that stage is a cancer cell for the United States of America. Could not have been clearer. It was so clear, CNN says it won't do it anymore.
All right, as we
No, California doesn't like talking about victims. They like talking about how lovely life is. Folks, if you are a Democrat voter, who knows? Maybe an illegal alien will rape and kill your child. Well, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it did, if you vote Democrat and you want open borders and an illegal comes into the country and kills your child, how will you live the rest of your life? How will you look in a mirror? How will you not want to hurl yourself off the top of a building for contributing in a very real and substantive way to the death of your own child? I've said it many times before, my friends, the threats facing America now are existential ones. Wrong decisions at this point in our history will end this country. We'll be back.
Join us at the number one source for independent media. Find out what the mainstream media is telling you. Infowars, pro-America, pro-Fanatics, pro-free. We are including exclusive reports, live coverage, information you won't find anywhere else. Tomorrow is news today. Stay informed by listening to KHNC 1360. Reality KHNC. Art of Colorado.
Item from Fox 5 New York, Dateline, Salem, Oregon, from the Associated Press. Oregon will allow students to take mental health days just as they would sick days, expanding the reasons for excused school absences to include mental or behavioral health under a new law experts say is one of the first of its kind in the United States. Unquote. My friends, no fears. I'm sure no student will take a day off from school unless he's really, 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 really in mental health distress. Or, kids being kids, they will use this to just plain get out of school, and a less educated workforce is by no means a win for America. Item from Breitbart. A politician who pushed for the introduction of gender-neutral toilets shortly after his election has been charged with 9 counts of sexual touching of a child. David Smith successfully petitioned the mayor of Middlesbrough to trial gender-neutral toilets at Middlesbrough Council shortly after his election to the local authority in Teesside, Yorkshire, as a politician representing the Conservative Party, according to the BBC. Unquote. My friends, there is enough wrong in England, in the United States, all over the world for politicians to focus on real issues rather than gender-neutral toilets. Item also from Breitbart. Theresa May's expected successor, Boris Johnson, is under fire from the Muslim Council of Britain for past comments suggesting, quote, something about Islam, unquote, was responsible for the Islamic world ending up centuries behind the West. Writing in an essay appended to his 2007 book, The Dream of Rome, exhumed by the left liberal Guardian newspaper, Johnson suggested that, quote, a fatal religious conservatism, unquote, had held the Islamic world back, and that the more it has, quote, fallen behind, the more bitterness and confusion there has been, to the point where virtually every global flashpoint you can think of, from Bosnia to Palestine to Iraq to Kashmir, involves some sense of Muslim grievance. Quote. Item from Breitbart. Former VP Joe Biden, who often pitches himself as middle-class Joe on the campaign trail, has spent more than $256,000 on private plane travel since announcing his presidential campaign. According to filings made public by the Federal Election Commission, Biden's campaign made 4 payments totaling $256,798 to Advanced Aviation, a private jet charter based out of Arlington, Virginia. Unquote. From the End of the American Dream blog, why are we seeing so many cases of flesh-eating disease all along the east coast of the United States? For years, flesh-eating bacterial infections were so rare in the U.S., even a single case would make national headlines. But here in 2019, the news is telling us we're seeing flesh-eating infections, quote, at a rate much higher than in previous years, unquote. And this outbreak really seems to have escalated dramatically over the last couple of months. My friends, I am not one to engage in harebrained conspiracy theories, but you've got to wonder if someone isn't using these pathogens to try and cause disruption, to kill Americans. It's not that far-fetched. We've had fears about biological warfare for a very long time, and it may just be that someone is trying it out, or it may be that people coming across our border illegally are carrying dreaded diseases like this with them, which is yet another reason why we need to slam the door shut in that border and keep it shut. All right, well, it's only Monday, and I realize I haven't left you with much today to be happy about, but be of good cheer, because we can't solve any problems until we find out about them. And if finding out about problems is what I do in this world to make it a better place, well, then so be it. You can come here. We'll call it the daily bad news. You call it what you want. But whatever it is, it will be true because this is real truth. I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta luego.